5, Premier Lawn Care. The 1811X Jeff Elder out of Suffield, sponsored by Elder Photography. Tasker out of Wayland is in the number 10. .493 is Tyler Rum out of Kent, sponsored by FRPR and Hawkeye Glass. Karen Hood is in the 27 out of Randolph, sponsored by Quality Compound Manufacturing. 44X is Todd Yoho out of Rootstown, sponsored by B-Night Racing Engines and Don Siciliano. And number 8, Aaron Hooder Cody Christie is in the 5, 27 out of Kent, sponsored by Collision Craft. Ryan Hooder out of Bruisers in the number 96. 1 second. Gonna try to get a little bit of daylight between these drivers. Look at there, get a turn. Sideways, way in the middle. Possibly top of lose. The only time when we top two drivers lose is when it is battle for first and second. Out of Kent, sponsored by Collision Craft. Third place is going to be,
who is 15 years old, and the number 72 out of Deerfield. Now, for a lot of them, this is their first event. Good way to get them introduced to the sport of demolition derbying. And quite frankly, I think they're pretty brave for being out there, but even more so is the passenger, the adult passenger riding with them. Now, we got a 12-year-old driver in the car 10 and a half. That is Haley Barons Tasker out of Wayland. And the number 177X is Tanner Voyers out of Suffield. Tanner is 12 years old. Sponsored by Jimmy John Subs, Gibson Iron, Byers Construction Metal, and Eldrith Photography. The M16 is Bailey Campbell, 12 years old, out of Suffield. Sponsored by Main Attraction DJ Service, the Henry Bierce Company, and Laubert Construction. The number 21X is Cole Youngblood, 12-year-old driver out of Atwater, sponsored by JL Excavation and Freedom Plumbing. Here comes Hayden Youngblood in the number 58, who is 12 years old, driving out of Rootstown, sponsored by Divers Steel City. And finally, Shay Sane is in the 691, 15 years old, out of Garrettsville, sponsored by Bicker Irrigation. Countdown starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let them go. And the youth heat is now underway. Look at the 10.5 blast off the starting line. That's Haley Barron's-Tasker spinning on it around over to the main side. Going to use the nose of that machine. And my goodness, putting a heck of a good hit with the 691 of Shay Sane out of Garrettsville. Here comes the number 72 of Jacob Durr out of Deerfield, making one heck of a breakaway. And look at the 177X. Tanner Boyers really spinning that machine around. My goodness gracious, got some speed going off of Tanner's 177X. And the 10.5. Haley Barron's-Tasker coming down about track center right there. Oh, we got some speed coming on. Whoa, my goodness. That was one heck of a hit. Now, remember, these drivers are between the age of 12 to 15. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Hold on there, drivers. Hold them up. Hold them up. Hold them up. They want to check out, make sure the gas tanks are good. That 691 of Shay Sane did one heck of a back-to-back hit out there. And hey, that was one hard hit that they both just made out there. We do need a skid steer out here, please, with the forks on it. And we do have some gasoline on the track. 177X, Tanner Boyers out of Suffield. 12-year-old driver going back-to-back with the number 58 of Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown. And I'll tell you, the 177X using the nose this time to make contact on that 10.5 of Haley Barron's-Tasker, and they're going to be sandwiching him in. Number 72, Jacob Durr out of Deerfield, making the last contact out here. And the 177X, Tanner Boyers, pushing his way on down there. And and we do have one of the large car drivers. Actually, I think we got a few of the adult drivers are participating tonight. So they're more than at home inside of these Demolition Derby vehicles in the 177X. I know we do have Jeff Eldrith in there, the 10.5 of Haley Barron's-Tasker out of Wayland, going to make contact on Jacob Durr's number 72. And 12-year-old Haley is driving the number 10.5 vehicle, and 15-year-old Jacob Durr's in the 72. And here we got a good back-to-back hit from the 177X. 12-year-old Tanner Boyers out of Suffield, making a rear end hit, throwing her in drive and using the nose of that machine. But you can see it looks like it's starting to take an effect as the steam is starting to belch out of the 177X. See how long that thing lasts after it's starting to get a little bit on the warm side under the hood. Now the M16 of 12-year-old Bailey Campbell down at the far end, making the way around, going back toward the 10.5 and 72. Cole Youngblood in the 21X. making his way down toward the middle of the track to go back-to-back with that 177X. 12-year-old Tanner Foyers. 58, Hayden Youngblood. Again, he's 12 years old as well. Got that black number 58 out there. Still running fairly strong. Again, I'm sure they're wanting to get out here and get moving. Most of them couldn't wait to get old enough to be in the youth event. Again, this is a fairly recent thing that started. Quite a few fairs are getting into this. Introducing these young drivers to the sport at a fairly early age. Plus, it's a good way to spin some contact. And they're stacking them up 3 deep right in the center. The number 72, Jacob Durr. 10.5 of Haley Barron's Tasker. And of course, the 177X of Tanner Foyers. Tanner going right back after the number 72. Again, that's a 12-year-old driver in the 177X. The M16 down at the far end trying to work his way out there. Looks like he's getting slowed down a little bit, getting a few tips of what to do for the driver in the passenger seat. But again, 12-year-old Bailey Campbell in the M16. Got her turned around and heading down toward the other end of the track. But here comes the 177X. Going to be eating up a lot of that real estate on the track pretty quick to make contact with the 21X of Cole Youngblood out of Atwater. Now, Cole is also a 12-year-old driver tonight, sponsored by JL Excavation and Freedom Plumbing. Oh, hold them up. Oh. They want to check out, make sure what they saw was. Hold them up there, 10.5. We're going to take a look at one of the. Again, looks like the 21X was good to go. That was Cole Youngblood out of Atwater at 12 years old. Again, the safety is the first priority out there. They did see a flash of something and just wanted to make sure that it was not a fire with these young drivers strapped inside of these vehicles. 10.5, Haley Barron's Tasker, another 12-year-old driver. Negotiating the way down the track right now, being chased down by 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown, sponsored by Divers Steel City. The 177X bringing her on down and hauling the wood right on down to the 10.5. Haley Barron's Tasker's automobile. Haley got out of the way just in the nick of time for the 21X hopped into the mix. That was Cole Youngblood out of Atwater. And Hayden Youngblood is in that number 58. Making his way around, getting a few helpful pointers from the adult co-pilot. And a pretty wild slide around there. A little bit of a reverse rollout maneuver off the 177X. And I think Tanner Foyers out of Suffield may have been practicing just a little bit. Seems to be knowing his way around, negotiating that vehicle up and down the track quite well. The M16 of Bailey Campbell kind of pushing on the number 72 of Jacob Durr. And in comes the 58 of Hayden Youngblood wanting in on some of that action. Cole Youngblood is in the 21X looking around to see who's going to be the next person in the crosshairs. And Haley Barron's Tasker out of Wayland going nose to nose with the M16 of Bailey Campbell out of Suffield. looks like most of the excitement is heading toward the middle of the track, and the number 177X coming on down through here right now. Most of the co-pilots giving some helpful advice to these first-time young drivers. And it looks like the number 58 of Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown going to extend the reach down there a little bit, looking over his shoulder to see who's going to be the next one to make some contact. 21X of Cole Youngblood, 12-year-old driver out of Atwater, and a little bit of a breakaway. I think we do have some exhaust once again. Referees keeping a close eye on it. Again, they do want to make sure that everybody's safe out there. So here comes the 10.5 of Haley Behrens-Tasker coming on down through the mix of things right now. Going to throw it in reverse and head back toward the 21X of Cole Youngblood. Cole's right in the middle, pulling away next to the M16 of Bailey Campbell out of Suffield. Now we still have 6 pretty good running cars right now. Looks like everybody's still running fairly strong, even after quite a bit of running here in the youth heat. And once again, that 177X of Tanner Boyers out of Suffield going back-to-back with Cole Youngblood out of Atwater. Looks like the 21X trying to get that machine moving, but it looks like something in the drivetrain might have had some problems with it. See how things go. If they're able to get that one moving once again with this 58 of Hayden Youngblood, not wasting any time moving down the track. He's being followed very closely by the 177X of Tanner of Voyers. Tanner's is sponsored by Eldridge Photography, Gibson Iron Metal, Jimmy John Subs, and Voyers Construction. And it looks like things not going so well for the 21X of Cole Youngblood. Cole's still trying to get her refired and moving. Haley Behrens-Tasker out of Wayland, still running strong. And I'll tell you, that number 177X still running strong, considering it has been overheating for quite some time right now. Over on the other end, Hayden Youngblood and the number 58 looking around. As Tanner Voyer slips behind him on the 177X. And Haley Behrens-Tasker still running strong in that number 10.5. Again, Haley is 12 years old. Taking a hit from 15-year-old Jacob Durr out of Deerfield. And on the other end, 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood in that number 58 automobile out of Rootstown. And number 58 going on down, making some contact on the M16. That was Hayden Youngblood going after Bailey Campbell. And it looks like the 58 did slow down for that driver's door, making sure they did not looks like the M16 starting to sustain quite a bit of damage on the rear end of that machine. hard pop out of the 58 of Hayden Youngblood. Again, that was 12-year-old in the number 58. Going after another 12-year-old in that 10.5. That's Haley Barron's Tasker in that orange 10.5 automobile. Uh-oh, looks like things are starting to stack up and steam up out at Track Central. All the referees keeping a close eye on all these vehicles. And they're all starting to show quite a bit of damage. You can see that the 10.5 of Haley Barron's Tasker definitely starting to have some front end issues on that machine after taking quite a couple hard licks. Okay, it does look like Cole Youngblood. Again, Cole was 12 years old running tonight out of Atwater, sponsored by JL Excavation and Freedom Plumbing. It's like the car has given out on that 21X, but Cole Youngblood doing a very good job here in this youth event. So we are down to 5 of them left running. And the 10.5, Haley Barron's Tasker starting to slow up quite a bit. She's working as best she can, but I don't think you got a whole lot of movement left in there. That kind of bumped it just a little bit. Number 72, Jacob Durr out of Deerfield, swinging that machine around and looking around to see who he's going to be able to come and make contact with. 10.5, Haley Barron's Tasker going to bounce off that 72. Number 58, Hayden Youngblood going down toward the 177X of Tanner Boyers. The M16, Bailey Campbell, still trying to swing around the corner down at the far end right now. And the steam still continuing to roll off for that 177X. Wow, taking a hit from Hayden Youngblood. Now you will notice that they are giving these young drivers a little bit more time to get their vehicles refired and stay in the game out here. They are learning a new sport and learning a new experience out here, so they are kind of giving a little bit more time to get their vehicles up and running. Again, this is for fun out here and the love of the sport. A lot of these kids really want to get out and get in. A lot of them are excited. And there are definitely no losers out here tonight, that is for sure. And I'll tell you, the 177X Tanner Boyers looks like still trying to refire that machine, but haven't seen a lot of movement out of it yet. Again, the referees keeping a close eye on things, and all these cars definitely getting a little bit wore out, I believe. And the M16 has been counted out, I believe. That's 12-year-old Bailey Campbell out of Suffield, sponsored by Main Attraction DJ Service, the Henry Beers Company, and Lavert Construction. And it looks like we do have some life up under the hood of that 177X. Problem is, it's got a flat tire on the front passenger side, and I believe the rear passenger side is also pretty well flattened out. Running pretty slow. Haley Barron's Tasker in the 10.5. So still trying to refire. The referee is keeping a close eye on that 10.5, seeing if they're able to get it going. I think Jeff Elders wants to get out and kind of give it a little bit of a push on the back of the 177X from the looks of the body language in there. Telling the driver to spin it around just a little bit. The 177X has got a little bit of movement to it now. He's got the hammer down. He's going to be hauling it down to the other end, and he's going to come to an abrupt stop after that amazing hit from 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown, sponsored by Divers Steel City. And doggone, it looks like time did run out for the 10.5. That was 12-year-old Haley Barron's Tasker out of Wayland. We are down to 3 automobiles left running right now. It's going to be 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood in that number 58. We got the 177X, 12-year-old Tanner Voyers. Uh-oh, we got... Looks like Jeff Elder was telling him right where to plant that number 58. It's 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood. Brought her on down the track at a pretty good rate of speed. Number 72 still running as well. That's 15-year-old Jacob Durr out of Deerfield. Well, it looks like the second still ticking away on the 177X. They're trying to refire that machine. We are down to 3 of them once again. Here comes the number 58 around in the corner, and they're going to go nose to nose with the 72 Jacob Durr. Our referees telling them that bring her on down the tracks. They try to refire the 72. And the 58 being driven by Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown. And the 58 definitely holding all the aces right now. Looks like number 72, Jake Durr, having some problems getting that machine going. Taking an onslaught of hits from Hayden Youngblood in the number 58. Uh-oh. And a hush falls over the track. There, we got her going once again. Well, short-lived victory, but I think we got some life back up under the hood. And the 177X 12-year-old Tanner Voyers will finish in 3rd place today. He's here out of Suffield, sponsored by Jimmy John Subs, Gibson Iron, Voyers Construction, Meadow and Eldrith Photography. So that's it. The red flag is going to be flying. Checkered flag is going to go to the number 58, 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown, sponsored by Divers Steel City. And a victorious driver getting the checkered flag. Put your hands together again. He's 12 years old, and there is some good sportsmanship as the other driver comes over to congratulate him. The second place, a very respectable finish by 15-year-old Jacob Durr out of Deerfield, driving that number 72. And third place is the 177X of Tanner Voyers. Tanner Voyers, 12 years old, out of Suffield. Actually drove the wheels completely off that 177X, that's for sure. But again, we certainly appreciate. We do want all the drivers to remain on the track, please. We do want all the drivers to remain down on the track. Drivers with their trophies out on the track. It's a big event for these young drivers. Again, most of them 12 years old. We got all 12-year-olds, 2 15-year-olds went out there and drove. Right now, put your hands together for the first place driver of car 58, 12-year-old Hayden Youngblood out of Rootstown, sponsored by Divers Steel City. The second place now being presented to the driver of car 72. That's 15-year-old Jacob Durr out of Deerfield, enjoying his moment of victory. And third place, driving the 177X, is 12-year-old Tanner Voyers out of Suffield, sponsored by Jimmy John Subs, Eldrith Photography, Gibson Iron and Metter, and Voyers Construction. And also, all the drivers are going to be getting trophies tonight, so put your hands together as I read their name. Haley Barons-Tasker, 12-year-old driver from the car 10.5 out of Wayland. Also have the driver of M16, 12-year-old Bailey Campbell out of Suffield, sponsored by Labert Construction, the Henry Beers Corp, and Main Attraction DJ Service. The 21X, Cole Youngblood, 12 years old out of Atwater, sponsored by Freedom Plumbing and JL Excavation. And the car that got carried off early on was the 691, 15-year-old Shay Sane out of Garrettsville, sponsored by Bicker Irrigation. So again, congratulations to all these youth drivers for participating in this Youth Demolition Derby event. Okay, it looks like we're going to go ahead and run with the vehicles we have on the track. Oh, got a red flag up in the air. Okay, looks like the green flags are flying around the track. Drivers are ready, referees are ready. So let's go ahead and give them a countdown, starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let them go. And the action's underway here in the mini car class of the Smash It, Crash It, Tear 'em Up Automobile Demolition Derby. Round number 2 at your 2011 Portage County Randolph Fair, and they are blowing this track wide open. Number 38 of Adam Somerville coming down the track. Pretty good job of it. My goodness, that 31 of Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls. He was definitely making the hay as he was coming down the track. That is for sure. Number 12 got definitely steam built up behind that, and these mini cars are flying out there. That is for sure. This is one large track. And they are putting on one heck of a show here in the early going. My goodness, the number 76. What a back-to-back hit from the 715 of Chris Villers out of Ravenna in that green and white machine. Again, he did propose out here, I believe, in front of that, possibly that same car. And my goodness, we are putting on one wild show here, thanks to these drivers out on the track that are doing a bang-up job, no pun intended. 317, Ryan Craig out of Worcester, really serious hard hitting out there. Already it does look like they have a couple of them experiencing some technical difficulties. And what a wild hit out of the number 916. He just brought his machine down there. That was Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna. And we are stacking them up. I'll tell you, that number 7 is taking quite a beating out there. You can see he's definitely slowed up quite a bit. And he is getting quite a bit shorter every little bit at a time. I'll tell you, that number 7 of Danny Bruckner out of Deerfield has sustained a lot, and I do mean a lot of damage. And the number 31 has pushed them up there, stacking them 3 deep. Looks like the number 7 did shut himself off there. That was Danny Bruckner out of Deerfield. And it does look like number 15 is out for the count. That's Michael McLaughlin out of Suffield, sponsored by House Business World. Ohio, K38 is out as well. Robert Heater Jr. out of Toledo, sponsored by Olin Energy. And the 735 has already called it a night. That's Josh Reed out of Kent, sponsored by Keller Williams and Kathy Reed. Got a few of them dropping. I'll tell you, these cars are sustaining quite a bit of damage. They've got a lot of running room, that is for sure. The number 1981, Gregory Kumos out of Atwater, sponsored by Allen Alloys and All Concrete. I did hear Josh Berkeley, the number 12, taking himself out of contention as well. They're out of Atwater, sponsored by Fisher's Forest Cars. He was right in front of the announcer stand here, right about the middle of the track. Number 44, Jeffrey Lee out of Ravenna, still running strong. And it looks like we've got a lot of steam pouring out of the 2410. Barry Knapp out of Sebring, sustaining a lot of damage on the nose of that white 2410 machine. Trying to get her refired as we speak. Number 9 looks like he's currently parked. Right, actually, that's the number P, Chris Spencer out of Hudson. Things slowing up quite a bit for the 715 of Chris Villers out of Ravenna. We've got them stacking up here pretty well, folks. Looks like we do have some problems on the front of the number 15. Zach Cutler out of Ravenna. Looks like he's broken something on the front end of that machine. The number 31, Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls, sponsored by Premier Lawn Care. Down at the other end, looks like things not going so well for the well doctor in the 410. He's easily identifiable by all of the lights on that machine. He's definitely slowing up quite a bit. And things definitely slowing up for, I believe, that's the quarter pounder of Ronald Kennedy out of Akron, sponsored by Lakes Auto Recycling. And doggone it, Barry Knapp's 2410. As colder at night as well. They're Dropping like flies out here. I think the number 22 looks like he's definitely slowed up. That's Corey Mason out of Cuyahoga Falls, sponsored by B&B Towing. And the number 43 out there, Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg, sponsored by TRW and his mother. 7:15. Looks like he's not having a real good day. Chris Villers out of Ravenna. And Chris Villers making contact with the number 38 of Adam Somerville out of Suffield, sponsored by the Suffield Carryout and Taylor Construction. In comes the number 916 into the action, Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna, sponsored by Collision Craft Auto Body. Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls behind the wheel of the number 31, sponsored by Premier Lawn Care. And also the 44 of Jeffrey Lee out of Ravenna is down there as well. And it looks like we do have quite a bit of steam starting to pour out of a few of them, and the 916 punching his way through at a good clip. That's Hillbilly Mike Smith behind the wheel of that 916, and he's going back to back right now with the number 31 of Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls, sponsored by Premier Lawn Care. Down at the other end, looks like a few of them definitely starting to not have a whole lot of movement in behind them. Number 22 over on the other side, Corey Mason out of Cuyahoga Falls, still running strong, mixing it up with Eric Stevens in the 31. In the 916, still very much in the mix of things, along with the letter P, Chris Spencer out of Hudson, side by side with the 43, who is driven by Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg, sponsored by TRW and also Miracle Automotive as well. And it looks like time has run out for the 15. And things really slowing up. See movement out of 4 of them for sure. Hard movement out of 4 of them for sure. And it looks like quite a few of the other ones. 7:15. Chris Villers out of Ravenna. That time run out on his machine. We do have, I think, 5 of them still left running. The 1981 of Gregory Kumos out of Atwater, sponsored by All Concrete and Allen Alloys. Also have the 31 of Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls, sponsored by Premier Lawn Care. I think we are down to 5 for sure that are running decently strong, still moving. We got a couple of them still on the timer. The 1981 who's still trying to get his vehicle on. Gregory Kumos out of Atwater, sponsored by All Concrete and Allen Alloy. And doggone it, there went the flag from Gregory Kumos' 1981. Again, he was sponsored by All Concrete and Allen Atwater, Allen Alloys. We are down to 5 of them left running right now, including Corey Mason in the 22 out of Cuyahoga Falls, sponsored by B&B Towing. Eric Stevens in the number 31 out of Newton Falls, sponsored by Premier Lawn Care. The 916, Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna, sponsored by Collision Craft Auto Body. The letter P, Chris Spencer, who's here from Hudson. And Andy Larkins in that number 43 out of Waynesburg, sponsored by TRW with Mom and Miracle Automotive. Five of them still showing at least a little bit of movement. Sounds like a few of these have pedals held to the wood, that's for sure. Revving them to the limit. You can hear the rev limiters kicking in on a couple of these that are out there. Down to 4. And it looks like the number 31 of Eric Stevens out of Newton Falls is on the timer. Letter P, Chris Spencer, also on the timer down at the far end. We got 3 of them still showing movement. And doggone it, there went the time on Eric Stevens in that 31. So we are down to 4 left running or on the timers. It's going to be the number 22 of Corey Mason out of Cuyahoga Falls, sponsored by DNB Towing. Moving out of the 916, Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna, sponsored by Collision Craft Automotive. The 43 of Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg, sponsored by Miracle Automotive and TRW and Mom. And it looks like time did run out on the letter P. Chris Spencer out of Hudson will go away with a 4th place finish. Again, Chris Spencer out of Hudson finishing in the 4th place spot here in the mini car. Looks like the 43 making a breakaway. That's Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg, getting a little bit of real estate between him and the rest of the pack. And the 43's trying to make a hit and just didn't quite materialize that. He did get a lot of run going on. The 916 is going to slip in there. That's Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna. Going to bring her back to back and bumper to bumper with the 43 of Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg. These two going to continue to battle it out as the number 22 of Corey Mason out of Cuyahoga Falls tries to make his way back toward the rest of the pack right now. Just not happening too quickly for that number 22. And I think he's getting a little bit on the tired side on that machine, not able to get down to the rest of it. Looks like the 916 having some technical difficulties as well. And they are keeping the time on the number 22 to see if he can make some contact. Make his way down there, the 916. Also on the timer as well. They're going to... And the 22 is going to go back. And a 43 is going to be an equal opportunity. Actually, that's Andy Larkins in that 43. Definitely has the most. 916 got her fired up once again. Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna. Doing a good bang-up job, and he's throwing caution to the wind, going after that number 43 of Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg. Sponsored by TRW and Mom, also Miracle Automotive. Still down to these final 3 mini cars down on the track. Okay. It looks like 22. Corey Mason out of Cuyahoga Falls, sponsored by BNB Towing, is going to be going away with the 3rd place finish tonight, which means we are down to the number 43 in the 916. Andy Larkins is in the 43 out of Waynesburg. And Hillbilly Mike Smith is in that number 916, driving here out of Ravenna. So we're going to find out here momentarily who's going to be going away with the $1,250 first place finish. 2nd place, not too bad at $500. $250 will be going to Corey Mason in the 22 for his 3rd place finish. And we are paying $100 for a 4th place spot, which goes to the driver of the letter P car, Chris Spencer out of Hudson. So again, all 4 drivers guaranteed prize money. Right now, it's going to be a battle between that 43 of Andy Larkins and the number 916 of Hillbilly Mike Smith. Both of them seem to be doing pretty well and holding their own. Andy Larkins again out of Waynesburg in that number 43. And it looks like right now the 43 got the upper hand, pulling away to go back and put a nose shot on the 916 of Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna while he is on the timer. Her referees tell him keep bringing her on while we still got the seconds counting away here. And they're making contact yet again. The 916 Hillbilly Mike Smith out of Ravenna trying to get his automobile refired. Sounds like he has about 20 seconds to go, give or take. The 43 of Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg continuing barrage of hits. And I did. And there goes the red flag. Looks like time has run out. And it's going to be going first place is going to be the number 43, Andy Larkins out of Waynesburg, sponsored by Miracle Automotive, TRW, and Mom. Second place, Hillbilly Mike Smith in the 916 out of Ravenna, sponsored by Collision Craft Auto Body. Again, third place is the number 22, Corey Mason out of Cuyahoga Falls, sponsored by B&B Towing. And the letter P, Chris Spencer. Chris Spencer in the letter P has taken himself off the track, but he did finish in fourth tonight. So again, all four of those drivers guaranteed prize money. And again, Mid-Vid Racing videos capturing all of tonight's Demolition Derby action. If you do want a copy of tonight's Demolition Derby, stop up to the announcer stand and they'll take engine. Timmy Novak out of Suffield is in the T91 pickup. Here comes Tom Learn in the 71 out of Southington, sponsored by Ron's Drive Shaft. Rob Mangus out of Kent is driving the 103 pickup truck. Daryl McMillan out of Canton is behind the wheel, the number 75, sponsored by H&H Auto Parts and Spencer Towing. Jim Martin is behind the wheel, the 79. He's here out of Canton, sponsored by Spencer Towing and H&H Auto Parts. Billy Loudon is in the 88-19 out of Mogador. And Mike Gubin is in the 19X out of Randolph, sponsored by Eldred's Photography. And it looks like we do have all the trucks on the track. The green flags are up. Drivers and referees are ready. So let's go ahead and give them a countdown, starting with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let them go. And the action's now underway here in the pickup event of the Smash It, Crash It, Tear 'em Up Automobile Demolition Derby pickup round. Number 79, Jim Martin, making his way out in the middle of the track already. The 7-0 looks like he's got some problems, just ever so slightly out here. This Hamrick, that didn't take him long to get things going. He's back into the nose of the number 79. It's Jim Martin out of Canton. 8 and 11 25th. We got some strong running pickup trucks out here. We are paying 4 spots here in the truck. $12.50 to win, $500 for second, $250 for third, and $100 for fourth. And my goodness, look at him go down through there. The 8 and 11 25th Russ Heater up on top of that pickup truck, sponsored by Boyer's Construction. I believe that must be Billy Loden out of Mogador. That's as I can tell. I can't see a number. It's all pretty much mud covered at this particular moment in time. The FC40, Scott Krieger heading down to the far end of the track, going to bypass those two vehicles currently hung up upon one another. Looks like we still have just about all of them running, but my, oh my, we got a hard hit from the FC40 of Scott Krieger out of Rootstown, sponsored by Warlock, Be-Nice Racing Engines, and of course his wife and kid. Can't forget them. That's going to be a glancing blow from the 75 Daryl McMillan out of Canton. He's getting that 75 wound up a little bit. Not looking good for the T91 of Timmy Novak out of Suffield. He's down there, looks like he's working on his machine, and somebody, I don't know who lost the tire, but we definitely got one of them laying down on the track. I don't know if that's off the T91 or not. But already in the early going, we do have some tires failing, including the FC40 of Scott Krieger out of Rootstown. He's got his tire, looks like the inner tube flopping all around, and good driving by the number 70 of Vince Hamrick out of Rootstown as he got his machine swung around just in the nick of time. So he did not make contact with the driver's door of that other pickup truck sitting crossways down through there, and doggone it, there went the flag from T91. Timmy Novak's night has come to an end. He was driving here out of Suffield, and it just doesn't look like Lady Luck was on his side tonight. Really loading out of Mogador coming in, and that's going to do some damage to Russ Heater's front end. Put a very solid hit on that 8 and 11/25, and Russ getting his machine squared away. I think the number 70's definitely got some front end issues on that machine, as best as I can tell. And Billy Lowton out of Mogador going down this time, hitting the 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent. Spinning him around pretty well. He's going to throw her in drive and ram into the nose of the 79 of Jim Martin out of Canton, sponsored by H&H Auto Parts and Spencer Towing. Got some flat tires on the number 70. Vince Hamrick looks like his problem trying to get some of that traction down on the ground. That's not looking good. Not looking good at all. Billy Lowton in the 88-19 went down to make some contact. And I think the 88-19 may be having a bad night. Concrete barricade. I'll tell you, Billy Lowton in the 88-19 was running a good show. We'll see how he's going to be able to get his vehicle unwedged from the concrete barricade. The FC40 ramming his way down into the mass of metal. He's going to park right next to the number 70 of Vince Hamrick out of Rootstown. 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent, still running fairly strong. The number 19X, Mike Gubinen out of Randolph, sponsored by Eldridge Photography. And right now, the FC40 is Scott Krieger. And doggone it, there went the time off the 88-19. Billy Lowton out of Mogador, sponsored by Boyers Construction, and ran out of time. So does Daryl McMillan out of Canton on that 75. He was sponsored by H&H Auto Parts and Spencer Towing. So slowly but surely, these pickup trucks are slowing up. Second tick by. Eldridge Photography sponsored number 19X working the infield side of the track right now. Made contact on the nose of the 79 of Jim Martin out of Canton, sponsored by Spencer Towing and H&H Auto Parts. Look what's coming down the track. Luckily, that was a swing and a miss because the 79 of Jim Martin almost took one heck of a hard hit from Mike Goodman out of Randolph in that Eldridge Photography number 19X. They're going to bring in the 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent. And it looks like Vince Hamrick in the number 70 out of Rootstown, sponsored by Be Nice Racing Engines and Buzz Auto. And Victor Transmission is out for the count. number 71. Looks like he's having some problems on the front of that. Tom Learn out of Southington, sponsored by Ron's Drive Shaft. And the 130, or the 103, I'm sorry, is for the 19X of Mike Goodman out of Randolph, sponsored by Elvis Photography. Hammers his way down the track at a very high rate of speed. Tom Learn out of Southington nosing into the FC40 of Scott Krieger out of Rootstown. And hold on to your helmet, gentlemen, because here comes the 19X bearing down. And I think he's chasing the FC40 all the way down. That was Scott Krieger on a receiving end of a hit from Mike Goodman out of Randolph in that 19X. That red pickup truck coming down toward the middle of the track. Going to be lining up this time. Looks like he's going after the number 79 of Jim Martin out of Canton, sponsored by H&H Auto Parts and Spencer Towing. 71 of Tom Learn out of Southington, getting spun around by the 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent. The 19X, Mike Goodman out of Randolph. He's going to be popping her from side to side. Backing into the 103 of Rob Mangus and driving head first into Jim Martin out of Canton in that number 79. Spencer Towing sponsored pickup truck. The FC40 looks like time expired for Scott Krieger out of Rootstown. He was sponsored by his wife and kids, Be Nice Racing Engine, and Warlock. And it looks like Tom Learn out of Southington is going to finish in the fourth place spot in that number 71, sponsored by Ron Drive Shaft. We are down to the 3 vehicles left on the track. Jim Martin out of Canton in the 79, sponsored by H&H Auto Parts and Spencer Towing. The 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent. And of course the 19X of Mike Goodman out of Randolph, sponsored by Eldridge Photography. The 79 is on the timer. Jim Martin trying to refire his machine. The referee's keeping a close eye on that 79. The 2 red pickup trucks. The 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent. 19X of Mike Goodman out of Randolph. Bringing her on down the track. Into the number 103. The 103 is trying to get her down there. Looks like he may have some technical difficulties on the front end. See that front wheel kind of spinning around. I think he may have a broken drive shaft. And it looks like a 79 is going to be finishing in the third place position tonight. Jim Martin out of Canton, sponsored by Spencer Towing and H&H Auto Parts. Now in the truck event, fourth place would pay $100 tonight. That'll be going to the 71 of Tom Learn. $250 for a third place finish. It's going to Jim Martin in the 79 out of Canton. And right now, first and second to be determined. Will it be the number 103 of Rob Mangus out of Kent? Or will it be the number 19X, Mike Goodman out of Randolph, sponsored by Eldridge Photography, who's now spinning his machine around. Square off and back right into the nose of the 103. And he momentarily was hooked up in under there, and he's got her unwedged. So 2 pickup trucks battling it out for the 1-2 spot. And again, $1,250 to win and $500 for second place. A little bit of a dance going on. And right now they're going to switch it up and go back to back. Looks like the 103 starting to get a little bit warm up there, blowing out some steam out of the blow-by tubes. It dances out the front end of that vehicle, blowing quite a bit of steam. Just catching on the tail end. And Mike Newman out of Randolph. Coming back around. And these guys squaring off nose to nose right now. Putting a little more daylight between them, getting some real estate on that track. And it looks like the 19X decides he wants to use the rear of his pickup truck. Gonna save the engine compartment and that radiator. And he's gonna back into the 103 as Rob Mangus comes barreling down the track, momentarily knocking the life out of the 19X. There, they got him popped loose right now. The 103, Rob Mangus. Trying to decide which way he wants to go. And I'll tell you, that 103 is hot right now. You can see it's starting to blow some flames out of the stack. And blowing one heck of a lot of steam. That overflow tube just dancing away out of the nose of the 103. And right now it looks like they are going to get squared away a little bit better. The 19X trying to get her spun around, but just couldn't quite get her hooked down to the ground. These two having one heck of a time getting hooked up at this particular moment. And the 19X, Mike Given out of Randolph, spinning his machine around. It looks like it did momentarily knock out the 103. But Rob Mangus does have her refired and still engaging the 19X. That was a solid hit. Both of those vehicles crumbling just a little bit. Uh-oh. Oh boy, the 19X did stall out. Mike Goodman out of Randolph. Working on refiring. There, he's got her going. We got a little bit of life under the hood right now. And he's throwing her in reverse and making some contact with the 103. Wow, Mangus popped up in the air. These guys squaring off once again. Oh my goodness. I think he just popped the tire, and he may have popped something loose. Can't quite tell for sure. And I do know that tire on the rear of the 19X definitely went south very fast after that last back-to-back hit. So that might slow progress up just a little bit. We can see the rim spinning freely inside of that rubber tire on the back. Mike Cuban's number 19X. And he is running here out of Randolph. And as you can see, roof sign, he is sponsored by Eldredge Photography. Still going strong. Push the 19X around just a little bit, getting him crossways over there. I'll tell you, that 19X, he's getting shoved in there pretty well. He's done one heck. Both of these drivers have driven a very good truck heat. And the 103 driving out of Kent, Rob Mangus. Going into the side of that 19X, driven by Mike Goon out of Randolph. Some things definitely slowing up just a little bit. Well, the 103 definitely getting a lot of pressure. He has got a real pressure cooker up under the hood of that. You can see all that steam releasing. And that overflow too. Actually on both of these trucks now. There it goes, coming out from underneath the 19X. Steam dancing out from underneath the hood of both of them. And the 19X stalled out momentarily, but he's got her going. Wheels are turning and he is down the track. He's tracking a little bit toward the side to get those flat tires. Definitely not helping his cause. And looks like he's got her going once again. He was looking down through there, and I think the 103 tracking a little bit cattywampus down through there as he was leaving the edge of the track. And Rob Mangus, hold him up. Got the red flags up in the air. Not sure what happened on the 103. And I think he did wave off. The 19X coming out. Mike going out of Randolph. Sponsored by Eldredge Photography. Finishing in the first place position. And in second is going to be Rob Mangus out of Kent in the 103. Again, first place in the trucks was $1,250 to win, $500 for second, $250 for third, which was going to Jim Martin in that number 79 out of Canton. He was sponsored by Spencer Towing and H&H Auto Parts. And finally, in fourth place in the trucks was $100 to Tom Learn and the 71 out of Southington, sponsored by Ron's Drive Shaft. Congratulations to all those drivers. Again, don't forget to stop the registration trailer and pick up your winnings.